you're rolling, sir. Go ahead when you're ready.
All right, we will call the Commissioners City Commission meeting to order. And Jen, will you take roll call?
Commissioner Corbin.
Here.
Commissioner Thill.
Here.
Commissioner Waldner.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson. Mayor Lindsay.
Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Make a motion, we approve the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Agenda is adopted. Appearances and acknowledgements. Acknowledge news release from USDA Rural Development Water System Improvement Project. And I guess I'm going to ask Mr. Corbin if he wants to make a mention of this. I think he's probably well aware of it.
I don't have a lot to say about it, just a press release that kind of spells out the communities in South Dakota that received loan and grant funding from rural development, and one of them happens to be the city of Madison for our upcoming water upgrades. Spells out $7.749 million in loan and $2,091,000 in grant money. Chad, Jen, probably stole all the glory in that. Anything left? Brad?
You got her covered there, Commissioner.
Simply wanted to make it a public document. Many are well aware, but this was just a nice press release, not only notating us, but all of the other projects that have been funded.
This is a huge deal, obviously, for our community, but also for others throughout South Dakota. The other thing, I guess, that I would also throw out is that this also is a replacement of our aging water tower. So not only are we working on water mains, but also the water tower, and it will disrupt the city a little bit as well. Citizens will be seeing equipment around their neighborhoods, and but ultimately it's going to help. I know Commissioner Thill has said in the past about popping water mains and things like that happen. It's an aging infrastructure, and this is going to definitely help us. So.
This funding will cover the water portion and the water tower, of course. And there's a lot of moving parts. We'll be talking about this a fair amount coming up. We also have the street, and as a commission, we'll have to decide different areas of town if we want to do full reconstructions or maybe just focus on water in different areas, depending on the situation. We've had a wastewater assessment. Actually, it's in process, so that'll be another big part of it, and this funding doesn't cover that, so we're going to have to be looking at what we have available for that. And we're kind of at the beginning. It's going to be a thing for quite a number of years now. So.
A lot of work going on. Jen, do we need a motion to acknowledge it?
I would appreciate that, please.
I'll make a motion to acknowledge the news release from USDA Rural Development for the Water System Improvement Project.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Acknowledgement accepted. Acknowledge number 2, news release from state of South Dakota, outdoor recreation projects funded. And I guess I'm somewhat aware of this. This was a grant that the Parks Department put in, and it is to improve and I think completely rebuild and do some major improvements at the Memorial Park playground equipment. And anybody else have anything else on that they want to say?
This is an annual program that the Game Fish and Parks does, and it's for recreation, and they like to do, it's outdoor recreation oriented, so it's a great opportunity to make some improvements in the small community. So.
And we applied for $75,000 and were awarded $75,000. This, in my opinion, is huge for our Parks Department. Many thanks to Kristen Olson in my office and Mr. McGilvery, who worked really hard on all of the application and follow-up with Mr. Kittle. And once again, we just wanted to publicly announce this. Mr. Clement did a very nice story for us last week sometime, too, and visited with Mr. McGilvery. So,
and we've
good stuff.
We've applied several years in the past, too, and this is the first one recently that we've gotten. So.
Correct.
And again, it looks like it's almost $500,000 that the state of South Dakota is granting this year, number of communities, and obviously we're happy to receive that for our community.
Project slated for 2019.
Excellent. get the money and put it in right away. I like hearing that. Do we have a motion? I will make a motion to acknowledge news release from State of South Dakota, outdoor recreation projects funded.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries. Anything on the consent calendar?
Motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, motion carries. Seeing no old business, new business, number 1. Authorize mayor to sign change order number 1. Design Art Group, LLC, Amert Construction, Municipal Utilities Building Renovation. And Chad or Brad, go ahead, Brad.
Should have in your packet an AIA document. It's down through some of the meeting minutes. After you get through those, you'll find it. And this is a construction contract change order number 1. Talking with Don Amert on the project and how they saw it working, one of the challenges was that the original floor was sloped for it was a former trench drain, so the floor had been sloped, and that was out in the shop part. And part of that shop part was going to be converted to offices, so we were going to have to do something to get the slope out of the floor. And then they wanted to put a curb out there so that when you park vehicles out there, no water could come back into the office and some of these other things on the part that was still going to be sloped. And one of the problems was that when you go to try to do that, we weren't going to be necessarily putting in concrete all over. We were going to be putting in a gypcrete, because we were going to try to take the slope out of the floor, starting at 1/2 inch at the edges and filling it in the middle, and we're going to have to put this gypcrete across the whole surface of the office. The problem was you can't really build the curbs and stuff out of the gypcrete, and so they were challenged. There was a challenge there, and we got to talking about it, that having about 1/3 of the floor already cut up to try to put the underfloor plumbing in, that he said it would be probably not much difference in price to take it all out. So that was the original intention, was just take that all out so we wouldn't have these different concrete levels and the gypcrete that's subject to spalling, and then it raises your thresholds up, and then you have a problem. You have to do something outside so you can match up, and so it was just going to create a lot of headaches for us. So he recommended that we take all the concrete out and come back and re-pour the entire floor. And so that's what they did. The street department did a fantastic job of assisting in that. They removed the concrete and hauled it all away. And so we had an open area. So that's all open right now and been removed. This is to replace that all with concrete. While we were at it, we looked at the cost of putting in a electric boiler for floor heat. One of the things we want to do in this building as much as possible is to try to put dual fuel in it, where we're going to use electric heat until we come up to peaks and that type of stuff, and then we'll go off of the electric heat and go on to the gas heat. And so we can do a dual fuel to try to shave our peaks, and we'll utilize this building as part of that process. In order to do that, we wanted to have some sort of electric heat in that area, and because of some of the difficulties that we were going to have in construction, having removed everything, we weren't going to have any heat in there, and we have to remove the gas heat that's in there to finish the construction, so we weren't going to have any heat in there. The floor heat becomes something that works really good in construction. You don't have to worry about the air, the dust and all that stuff flooding into your heater. So that was the other thing that we used as a consideration. And so the cost for the concrete was $5,080 to do that, and they have 7 days additional days to do that. And then the cost for the boiler system and all of the piping and everything is $15,614. And then we're going to replace the water line. The existing water line came up right inside the building. Originally, we thought we were going to keep it there. And after some thought and deliberation, since the concrete was again removed from the entire floor, it would be an improvement to get that so that the water came in from the curb stop all the way to the water meter, and have that in the utility room where there's a drain, so that if it ever goes to leaking, it can go in the drain rather than being in the middle of an office. So we thought that would be an improvement. And then you'd also have to box out this area. By the time you put in the proper laying length, your dual check, and all that stuff on your water meter, it gets to be fairly long. We're going to end up with a pretty good size cabinet inside of an office that just houses a water meter. So it looked like this would be a better deal. And it was just an extra footage of water line here for $378. The total on that comes up to the $21,072 that you see in the change order.
Do you foresee any more change orders coming in on that building,
I'm sure there'll be some others as we go along.
such as what?
The one that we want to look at is increasing, and whether it's on this or we do it as a separate thing outside of this contract, we haven't talked about yet. The very rear portion of the truck bay at the back, it has 4 little electric heaters in it right now. There's no other alternative type of heat. And should we, hopefully we never have this problem, but we need to plan for it just in case. There's a small generator that sits outside to run the building, and we can run lights and we can open doors and we can run the gas heat with it, but we can't use the electric heat. The generator's not big enough. So if we ever get into a situation where we have an ice storm like we had back in 2007, 8, whatever it was, and the power goes out in a big area and we're in that area, the only way to thaw the trucks out is going to be with gas heat. And so we want to have the ability to have the gas heat back in that back bay too. So we would look at repiping some of the gas line going back there. That's one thing I know that we've, trying to get a quote on, so we can look at that. So
A big part of the cost is because we're putting that dual fuel system in, which became an opportunity after it looked like we were able to take the floor out. That's why we have the change order. But being our own electric utility, I think we need to kind of set the pace in terms of thinking about doing dual fuel and looking at opportunities when we can heat off peak and then shed that load when it becomes appropriate.
Seems like to me, I think we're getting the cart ahead of the horse on a lot of our projects because we have to come back afterwards and use change orders to get things lined up. I'd like to see us work harder on trying to get everything in line before we put the bid out.
Won't that increase our proposed costs? I mean, how are we to anticipate we're going to take the whole floor out?
Well, I guess things enter into it, but
I think this is a perfect example of why you'd use a change order, actually.
I believe we're still under budget, the ultimate budget that we had for it. And,
yes, sir.
And honestly, I don't know of a building project. I don't know about your house, Commissioner Thiel, but my house, I dig into one little project, and before you know it, I got many change orders. My wife's not, well, she's the one making the change orders, maybe, but with old houses and things like that, you're going to have that, and I think I don't know of very few projects, especially of this magnitude, that you don't have some little change orders, and this to me looks a little bit like an opportunity. I like the in-floor heating stuff. I think it's smart thinking of the dual fuel for the heating system. I think that's just smart thinking on that regard. But
Would you like a motion?
eventually I would, if there's no other questions. If Commissioner Johnson, do you have
Just
a
that,
comment or question?
in a perfect world, I wish that we could name our price and this is it, but over the years, whether it was Dakota State or the school system here, I've never been in a project where there wasn't some change order. So I don't have, I don't like to be capricious about them having them just happening. We'll do the best we can.
I would agree with that as well.
As somebody said this morning, we come up, but yes, plan we can, but the planning oftentimes requires us to have alternatives. And so I'm comfortable with this. I think it's all improvements for us. And yeah, I wish we could name our price and say that's it. I understand that completely, but that may happen sometime in the next millennium or two. Somebody will be that lucky. But
I don't want to see department heads leery of pursuing an opportunity because we're afraid of change orders either. But I understand what you're saying, Bob. I don't want to budget a project small knowing that it'll be large.
well,
but,
you can
and
run up
change orders
against
all along the way.
anything, but it just seems like lately we've been change order for this, change order for that.
I've never seen a project that doesn't.
Yeah, I know. But
Well, we're trying to be more transparent, Bob. That's part of
Okay.
it.
But the other part of it is, I think it is a good point is made, is that those change orders come here. We're not, there's nothing that's hidden, they have to be approved by us, so they're, like you say, very transparent. So, And to the credit of the system, it works well.
One other quick thing I would say is that it also, I think the number of change orders that you see coming in is because we got a lot of stuff going on in our
Well,
community too, so.
That's
there's a lot
absolutely
of-
true.
there's-
That's true.
Just wait, Bob, there'll be more coming
Yeah,
for sure, so. we have
I
a lot
realize
going
that,
on,
but-
so.
I can't believe how chatty we are in these midday
I know,
meetings.
but,
No, let's have a motion.
Marshall,
if
get
you
up
have
here.
any questions, come
You
on
knew I
up.
wasn't gonna come up, didn't you? Jeremiah.
I guess I
Go ahead
totally,
and state your name again.
Marshall Dennert,
Thank you.
I totally agree with there's changes, and this is probably a good change, but I disagree with, well, we're underneath, we got a bid for underneath our budget, and to use that as an excuse, well, we're underneath our budget, so let's go ahead and make the change. So our budget, I think, if I remember correctly, was 320,
350. The building alone is 350.
350,
Yep.
okay.
This, as per the document in front of you, would bring it to 247,072.
So what was the original bid?
226.
226.
even.
So there's $125,000. Technically, you guys, if you guys use the assumption, well, we're underneath our bid, so let's go ahead and make it. Are we going to spend that $126,000?
No, this is just a great opportunity.
Well, I understand that, but I mean, if that's the case, we might as well just leave the bid at 350.
We should
I'm-
recover all our costs on this in about 5 years and hopefully last 20 before a major component goes out on it. I mean,
And like I said, I'm not disagreeing with the change. You have to pull up the concrete. This is an opportunity. But when Mike said, well, we did come underneath the budget, yes.
he's just reminding us.
Right.
Yeah, my comment wasn't that I'm giving you a department heads a green light to just spend
It-
away.
It
My
sure sounds
comment-
like it.
Oh, well, that
I don't think that's-
was not at all my intention of the comment. The comment was that we don't have to go and find extra money someplace else in our budget or some other reserve in order to do this, because we do have a little bit of room to do that. So my comment is kudos. I mean, we're sitting good, but this is pretty easy to do.
Right. I guess I just don't want to fall in,
Oh, yeah.
well, we got budget,
Yeah.
we budgeted for this, and we got money allowed for that. If another change comes up, we need to really look at, is it worth it? And I think this change is worth it. I mean, no doubt in my mind. But I just want to make sure we, just because we have that
Yeah, we don't need to
fallback.
we don't need to fall into that trap.
Okay,
If you could do me a favor, keep an eye on us, and if we do, let us know.
I will let you know. Okay, thank you.
Yep, thanks, Mark.
And we will continue to explore opportunities as we go along to make the most value out of the project. At the end of the day, we're going to spend X number of dollars. We should do it right the first time, get the maximum value we can out of it while we're spending the money. And I want to get it so we don't have to come back 5 years from now to go fix something or replace something we should have done while we were in construction. That's my biggest fear, is you get something tore apart and it's like, well, that's going to cost a little bit more money. We won't do that. And then 5 years later, you're back tearing apart what you put together to fix it. So that's part of this. They were worried about the gypcrete spalling at a half inch. And so that was part of the concern. It wasn't going to be a premium product. Let's put it that way.
Do we have a motion?
I think we make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign change order number 1, Design Art Company LLC / Human Construction for the, municipal utilities building renovation.
Do you want a dollar amount on that change order in the motion?
Sure. I usually put that as part of the minutes anyway, but go ahead.
What's the dollar amount?
It is
21,000.
21,000, 22,000?
21,072.
21,072.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We got through number 1. New business number 2. Authorize the mayor to sign voluntary extension of agreement, State of South Dakota Bureau of Administration, sale and wheeling of electricity to DSU.
This is we have a contract that it was approved in 2014. It expires this year, needs to be renewed. Working with Michelle Ferris from the state, that is the overseer for DSU and the other campuses around the state, working on a new agreement that's been back and forth a little bit, trying to get some. We want to update the wheeling cost a little bit, and we're trying to determine how we want to include that. I don't have any paperwork to show how the original one was done way back when. I haven't found anything yet that says this is how they calculated it. If we calculate it the way that the agreement specifically reads, it doesn't match up with what we're doing now or did even back then. So we're trying to come up with something that's close to what was done in the past, and we think we've found a methodology. We got to run it through the attorneys and that type of stuff. So we've been going back and forth and having meetings, trying to get it so that it matches up. But the numbers don't match up with what the agreement says, so we have to modify the agreement to make it match how it's being done or has been done. So hope that's a good enough explanation.
Yeah, question then is that like full Board of Regents? Because she's doing it for all, or we're just specifically for
There's a-
DSU is,
Yeah, there's one person that's a signatory at the Bureau of Administration, and that's who will be signing this.
okay. Any other questions?
Make a motion to authorize the mayor to sign voluntary extension of agreement with the state of South Dakota Bureau of Administration, sale and wheeling of electricity to DSU.
Second. We have a motion and a couple of seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. New business item number 3. Authorize mayor to sign real estate purchase agreement, Miller Construction Incorporated, Lot 2, Thomas and Miller, First Edition. And Chad or Jen, is that, this was probably the mayor.
This has been the mayor's baby. I can say that I have known about his intentions to bring this before you for quite some time. So what you do have in front of you is a real estate purchase agreement in the amount of $3,000. I don't have the map with me, but there's a map. I believe the mayor has visited with you individually, one-on-one, commissioners, to further explain his intent. Mr. Gagnon, do you have any comment as maybe there was some snow removal issues?
This is the end of the.
Yeah, North
Come on
End of
up, please
Division.
help us out.
Yep.
Thank you.
The end of North Division, I think is what they're talking about.
Yep.
Yeah, we just want to be able to pile our snow at the end of that street. We have a little issue with drifting there. We want to be able to push it back. You know where I'm talking about on North Division there? Yeah.
If I may. Mr.
Yes,
President,
please.
Mayor didn't ask me to talk about this, but he has talked to me about this, and if I may add a bit to try to bring you all and the public up to speed. This is at the end of Division Ave, the north end of Division Avenue. It's from the center line of the roadway where it terminates right now at North Division. The center line of the roadway, 33 feet to the east, and it's about, I'm not going to get the length, but it runs all the way down to the creek bottom, if you will, like 450-ish feet down there. So it's a long, skinny lot that was platted a long time ago. As you can see here, Mr. Miller retains ownership of it. I don't know the exact particulars as to why he maintained ownership of that in his transaction with when he sold the rest of the property and such, but it does indeed provide drainage all the way down to the channel down there. I guess I can stand by to answer your question, but that gives you a...
Yeah, it's just a matter of, as Gary said, we've had trouble finding someplace to move that snow off to.
$3,000 to be a good neighbor and make our lives a little easier.
Is that street plotted down to 15th Street?
It is not. The end of the dedicated right-of-way is approximately where the end of the asphalt is now, about where the barricades are. I believe there's barricades.
Where the gate is?
Yeah, the gate. So that's about where the end of it's dedicated. On the west half of that street, the west 33 feet, that's still entirely privately held, and there's no separate odd lot there. There's no separate dedication to the public right-of-way of any sort, so it's a 100% private property from the center line going west. This little skinny lot exists from the center line going east.
One little slice for us that the guys can just push the snow all the way out there and be done with it instead of having to drag it back out or I know that that's been a problem area.
I think you called my attention to it last winter once, and
Yeah.
Bob, you've talked about it before too. It's just, we're just kind of in a trap there. We need some escape.
Knowing how much
But
the,
I've
go ahead.
always went and talked to Randy, and he says, yeah, just take it out in my field, and everything will be fine. So, I really don't know why we need this. If it's a want or if it's a need, talk to the farmer, and I'm sure we could probably keep pushing it right on out in there.
But we haven't been able to push it out
I guess that's,
lately.
and that's not
So-
been my experience with it lately. It's just,
I was told to stay out of
yeah.
there.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion that we authorize the mayor to sign real estate purchase agreement, Miller Construction Incorporated, Lot 2, Thomas and Miller, First Edition,
Mayor, would you
in
kindly
the amount of $3,000.
Second.
funds to come
knowing-
from the general cash balance, please?
From the
You're too
general,
quick for me.
general funds balance, cash balance.
Knowing how much the mayor enjoys being a part of this, should we table it for a week? I'm kidding, but
If
he loves buying stuff.
we could, so,
Second.
but we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Mr. Corbin, we're good? All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. You're welcome, Ms. Eimers. Let's see. Number 4, resolution number 2018-32, approve a plat, lots 1-2, block 1, DSU Foundation Edition. And again, I think Chad, you were at the planning meeting as well, or maybe?
Yes, I can talk about this, Mr. Chairman. Included in the agenda packet are unapproved minutes from the December 18th Planning Commission meeting where this was heard by them. They approved it. Also included in the minutes, or excuse me, in the agenda is resolution number 2018-32, which is the action that's technically before you, which says that you approve give final approval to the plat. But, so what this is a plat for subdivision and sale purposes only of some property up near the tech center on North Washington Avenue. It's there going to the east. I did circulate the plat itself, the document that was before the commission. Right now you just have the resolution in your packet, so you can see where Lot 1 and Lot 2 are. Lot 2 is 13.6 acres, Lot 1 is 1.87 acres. This hasn't went through I'll call it the master plan process, but that's prescribed by the subdivision regulations. But there's a clause in the certificate, owner's certificate, that we've used before back in 2012, that when parties want to just sell property, or excuse me, plat property for sale purposes only, that says they have to come back in and take any necessary steps deemed appropriate for master planning in the future when it is ready to develop, so to speak. I apologize, there's one other item in the minutes. There was a letter from Dick Erickson dated December 13th. He's writing on behalf of the Dakota State University Foundation, where he talks about this proposal, in particular this clause in the owner's certificate that indicates they will come back as necessary to go through the necessary master planning at the appropriate time. The same information was presented again to the Planning Commission. They recommended approval, and I also recommend approval of the plat. And I stand by for any questions.
And go ahead.
I was just going to make a comment. We talked about easements, and part of the reason that there aren't easements on here is because we don't know what the final lay of the land is going to be. And we didn't want to put utility easements all through the middle of something and then have to go back and go through the process of vacating utility easements to come back and put them somewhere else on there. So that's part of the stuff that'll be taken care of when we do go back to the final development of this, and then we'll get the easements where we need them, get our utilities where we need them. But that was a discussion that was had on the utility side, was that we would forego the easements in this plat, knowing that we would do that in the following process.
Appreciate that, Brad, and I think in the letter from Dick Erickson, I think same kind of what they're saying as well. They can't present that until they go through kind of their master plan as to what they're looking at doing as well. So I know it is if you go on dsu.edu, go to the athletics, you can see some of the concepts of what their future plan is, and it's pretty amazing what they would like to do. Any other questions?
We have a strong relationship with DSU in terms of communicating and figure out where these things will wind up, so I'm not worried about that.
We had several meetings with Mr. Erickson and staff from the foundation and David Jenks, so we had talked about this quite a bit in developing this last paragraph in the owner's certificate. And so, to Commissioner Corbin's point, we've had a very good relationship and very good communication with them on this process.
Thanks. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve resolution 2018-32, approve a plat, lots 1, 2, block 1, DSU Foundation Edition.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thanks, gentlemen. Resolution number 2018-33, declare the intent to reimburse expenditures with proceeds of bond issue. And I believe this is Mrs. Jen.
I shall speak to this, thank you. What you have before you in resolution number 2018-33 is essentially an IRS regulatory document as received from our bond counsel, Mr. Todd Meyer Henry, in regard to the RD project. And if you are to read through the resolution, it essentially allows the city to pay expenses associated with the RD project before the bond is issued, then be reimbursed with the proceeds of that bond. And we are starting to see engineering invoices for the project, and then we need to have this resolution in place to recoup those expenditures when the bonds are issued. If you look closely at paragraph number 1, it does discuss the issuance of $7,749,000 worth of bonds in order to assist with the financing of the removal of the water tower and replace with a new storage tank, and also install new water mains as the RD project that we have been discussing earlier today and in subsequent weeks. Also, bullet item number 1 talks specifically about expenditures being reimbursed with proceeds of the note.
So this is for the rural development portion of the project.
Absolutely.
So we're referring to it as a bond, but it'd actually be the rural development loan/grant.
Correct.
Any other questions? If not,
Part of the process.
do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2018-33, declare the intent to reimburse expenditures with proceeds of bond issue.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 6, first reading and set date of hearing, ordinance number 1606, amend Appendix B zoning, section 17.113 HB Highway Business Zone. And is that Chad? You can speak to this?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Included in the agenda packet are the Planning Commission proceedings from December 18th, the unapproved minutes where this item was on the agenda, and also is ordinance number 1606, and also the notice of the next hearing, which we're asking that you'll be setting here in a moment. But this item was on the Planning Commission agenda on December 18th. There was a request from an individual in the public, Mr. Clark Sinclair, sent a letter on November 23rd asking for consideration of adding a use as a conditional use in the Highway Business District. This happens to be the area where the Montgomery's Furniture is located. And so we pursued developing an ordinance precipitated by that request, coordinated with First District some, and and our attorney to come up with some language, and that is the ordinance that's before you. We added conditional use number 25, which is, it reads public or quasi-public, semicolon, recreational, semicolon, and fitness facilities or buildings. That's what the proposal is for this additional use to be put in place in all the highway business districts, not just this one area. It's not a conditional use which is site-specific or a variance which is site-specific. It's going to affect all the zones. The Planning Commission did review that. I talked at that time, and I'll just tell you now a little bit. We looked at some of the other uses and some of the other business zones and took that into consideration as they developed this proposed use, this quasi-public and public recreational and fitness facilities and buildings. So it's consistent, generally consistent with some of those uses already listed in the other zones, so I thought it was reasonable to put it, propose this for your consideration and the Planning Commission's consideration. They did indeed recommend approval of this, and this is the first reading for you. In 2 weeks, well, not 2 weeks, but on January 7th, which is not the next meeting, but typically we wait a meeting, is when we would anticipate this being put on the agenda for a hearing before the City Commission. The Planning Commission already had a hearing, technically an advertised hearing in their meeting. So with that, I'd be happy to try to answer any questions.
January 7th?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions, comments?
I'll make a motion to approve first reading, set a date of hearing for January 7th for ordinance number 1606.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carries. Item number 7, bid number 879, review and award bid. Looks like we're buying some chemicals. Brad and Chad, is that, yeah?
I can talk about this. We've done this, we've seen this several years in the past. And included in the agenda packet is a bid tabulation for the bids for the chemicals for the water plant. You can see those in there, and also you can see some of the past year's prices. Again, I'd mentioned this is a familiar process that's been done in previous years, so you may not recall the particulars of those prices in previous years, but this draws your attention to the process, if you will. So typically these are awarded on a schedule by schedule basis. There's 6 schedules for the different chemicals. Hawkins out of Roseville, Minnesota was the low bid, and Schedule B for liquid chlorine, Schedule D for ferric chloride, and Schedule F for aqueous ammonia. DPC Industries out of Rosemount, Minnesota was the low bid for fluosilic acid. And Pete Lean and Sons out of Rapid City, South Dakota was the low bid for Schedule A lime. There was no bid submitted for carbon dioxide, Schedule C, which has been consistent for the past couple of years. My understanding is Mr. Nybert at the plant contacts suppliers and works with them directly. It's not a over the bid limit or anything, so he's able to negotiate that separately. I would recommend that we award the bids to those respective low bidders that I had just announced.
Questions, comments?
All right. I'll make a motion to approve bid number 879, review and award bids for chemicals for item A, for lime, to Pete Lean and Sons, the unit price of $166.12. Item B, to Hawkins, the amount of $48 per unit. D to Hawkins for $5.48 per unit. F, aqueous ammonia, $3.15 per unit. Then I also want to award item E to DPC Industries Incorporated for $4.30 per unit.
Second. We have any other
Shannon
comment?
Awards for trying to pronounce those correctly.
Yeah, exactly.
Still don't think I did. Right.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. New business, item number 8, bid number 880, set bid date, operational services, Madison Recycling Center. And we'll ask Gary to give us some more insight on this.
Well, last week we had a bid of, let's see, $87,360, and we rejected that bid. And then we looked at other alternatives on how we were going to do this, and in the meantime, Valiant asked if they could rebid it. So we decided to go through the process again, and that's where we're at. So
And this
we have
doesn't
to start over again.
Anybody can still, this isn't just based on value.
No, anybody can
move
bid.
still with the proposal.
Same procedures in the past, the documents will be posted out on the website, there's a special proposal form, there's a agreement type, draft agreement, all will be posted along with this bid.
What bid number do we start at the beginning of the year? Because we're at 880.
They're continuous, right, so this 800 is.
It started at some point.
Hang on.
That's a lot of bids for 1 year.
No, they just have been continuous, quite frankly, ever since I've been here. And well before that, I think,
25 years, 30?
yeah.
867 was the first bid of 2018, bid date of 2/18. So we've gone from 867 to 880.
Thank you for keeping those numbers available for me.
It just happened in front of me. It doesn't always happen.
I'll make a motion that we approve bid number 880, set a bid date, and let's see, 9th day of January at 2 p.m. for operational services for the Madison Recycling Center.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carried, and thank you, Gary, for helping us with that. Item number 9, approve application for a taxi cab license, Madison Taxi Service.
I can speak to this. There are a handful of licenses that must have your approval on an annual basis. The first one being for a taxi cab license. We have been visited by our dear friend Alan Duffy, who continues to run Madison Taxi Service again in 2019. We simply ask for your approval on his application. All is in order.
Law enforcement okay with this?
Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve application for taxi cab license, Madison Taxi Service.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 10, approve application for commercial hauler license, Bud's Cleanup Service.
Same is true here, gentlemen. Ordinances dictate that we must approve this on an annual basis. You've got the application before you for Bud's Cleanup Service. This particular document asks for the number of vehicles, which they state as 8, and they have been listed on the back side of your document here. Once again, no concerns here. All is in order from the finance office aspect.
I move to approve the application for the commercial haulage license, Bud's Cleanup Services.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Any public comment?
Go ahead.
Seeing no public comment, announcements.
Next meeting is, again, the 2nd?
Scheduled for the 2nd. We will see what kind of agenda items come through with the short week, and we'll let you all know whether or not we're going to meet on the 2nd at noon is where we're scheduled for, please. Keep it posted.
Comments from street department about anything about the pending removal? Nothing?
The pending doom of storm coming in. I guess I would remind the public to take a
Slow
look
down.
at the website for snow removal procedures from law enforcement perspective. Brad said it, slow down. take your time. If you don't have to go out and it's a nasty storm, then don't go out. Use your own caution, but certainly check out the website, or you can also call the streets department and figure out the snow removal procedures. So
The best thing people can do is just keep your cars off the streets. It just helps so much for law enforcement purposes as well as for snow removal. So really appreciate that.
seeing no executive session, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion.
We have a motion and
I'll take a second.
second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Should-